I have on set with me the chairman of the Chamber, well, of the Inter-Island Transportation Committee on the Chamber of Commerce, Tobago Division, Ms. Dianne Hadad, and I also have with me President of the Tobago Hotel and the Tourism Association, Mr. Chris James, this morning talking to us about an issue with regards to the cargo ferry soon to be taken off the route, which would adversely affect Tobago, as we heard the chairman of the Chamber, Tobago Division, Demijan, said yesterday. Mr. Dad and Mr. Chris James, good morning.
Good morning, Patricia. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
And I'll start with you, Ms. Hadad. What are the real implications of not having a cargo ferry operating between Trinidad and Tobago at this time?
Well, that is so obvious. There's just no movement of food, goods and services to the island. The capacity required cannot be carried by the other two fast ferries, and in the press conference we did yesterday, we would have mentioned that we don't have two fast ferries right now. As it stands now, the TNT Express is off the route for clearance certification. That has not been, they've not gotten it, and we are only working with the TNT Spirit. So those vessels cannot take the weight, the cargo requirements at all. And we no longer have the Warrior Spirit. Remember, that contract came to an end at the end of August last year, and it was not renewed because, of course, the decision was made based on the fact that the Super Fast Galicia was able to take the cargo that was required for the island at the time. So there was no need to have a second boat. So in light of cutting costs, keeping things within a reasonable balance, the decision was taken, which we had no challenge with at the time. However, we did know that because there was nothing concrete with the Super Fast Galicia after the one-year contract from 2014 to 15 had come to an end, and that negotiations kept going on. These persons were on a month-to-month contract, and therefore we knew that that was in jeopardy all along. So we have had several correspondences between the minister at the time, Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, and then the board under Ms. Christine Sahadeo, and further with the new minister on his office when he took up office as Minister of Works.
Right, and we are, well, the business community, of course, would be affected. You all are being given options in terms of, well, one, we know they want to give you all a barge to bring stuff from Trinidad to Tobago, which the Chamber said yesterday they're not going to accept. So if you all are not accepting the barge, what is the alternative?
Well, let us be really clean about this. First of all, we read this in the newspaper, right? So there's been no direct discussion with the minister and his team. Everything that we have so far was read via the media, and we would have spoken on that based on what we saw there on Sunday. In fact, on Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, it was in both sets of newspapers. We cannot understand why we would be even asked to go back to something like a barge. Of course, the barge has its own complications. Coming across the water on a barge, goods cargo, is going to damage it terribly. We have had this years ago, and we did agree to using it because we were in one of our desperate moments. I mean, we live this. It doesn't seem to be something that can be brought to an end at all, or nobody sees it fit to do so. And I remember all the Carib bottles, the covers got rusted by the time they got here. All your Coca-Cola products, the 8-ounce, all your 8-ounce, but anything with a metal cover was rusted. So the things could not be sold. So in using the barge, it really makes no sense. Then we are saying, well, okay, maybe it is they want to use hardware materials. But are you going to jeopardize the quality of your steel? The steel is going to be taking the same salt water coming across, and therefore it is going to be, I mean, a barge, a tug and barge, we are in 2017. This is very disappointing because the Super Fast has served us well for the time that it's been on the run. At the time that the Warrior Spirit broke down and was working on one engine, and we had to get the Super Fast in another crisis scenario, the Warrior Spirit costed Trinidad and Tobago $58 million for the year. And the Super Fast Galicia was attained at $48 million, so there was a savings of $10 million. Further to that, it holds 3 times the cargo of the Warrior Spirit. So to drag the agreement or to drag the decision to give the people a contract or whatever when it has served us well, we've really had no problems with the boat since. The only problem is it cannot dock at the domestic area because of the draft. It's too deep. So we have to work at the international area. What happened is the owners had committed that they would actually help dredge the port so that the boat, if they would give a proper contract. So we have tagged along and dragged this on to, I guess, the point where we would have frustrated somebody who wants to do business and not play games.
But Chris James, if I should bring you in for a second, how does this affect the tourism industry, the hotel industry?
It's an enormous effect. It feels to the industry in Tobago, the tourism industry, feels like it's being closed down piecemeal, piece by piece. I mean, on Saturday, we only had 1 of the ATRs working. 4 of them were grounded. With that problem, compounded with this problem, I think there were 300 people at the airport at one time in Tobago, trying to get out of Tobago. And it just damages our reputation as a destination to come to. It's nonsense in terms of economics, because ideally we want Trinidadians to holiday in Tobago for the country's sake, because the money stays in the country. Also for our sake, because we don't have the international arrivals at the moment. We're hopefully embarking on some destination marketing, which we have not done seriously for a while. So our international arrivals are down, as you know. We're 80% down over 10 years on the international arrivals. And we are dependent on the Trinidad market. But also, just for us living here, this is going to be a challenge for all of us living here, because the goods are not going to be able to come. And for it to actually happen on Good Friday, which is a 2-week period that we expect to be busy, is another knock. It really is, to the industry, feeling like we're being closed down one day. And we really need serious action now to happen to survive this. Just to give you some idea, and just going through the list of people that contacted me about lost bookings this weekend, one guest house lost 20 bookings this weekend. Wow. That will actually put him in a lost position for this month.
Yes.
So that's the kind of situation we're facing. 20 bookings lost from one guest house. And it's tragic to see these people trying and doing what they can, and then we have this situation where we cannot get people into the rooms.
But Ms. Hadad, what does the Chamber what action do you all intend to take? Because, I mean, we can't just sit down and expect things to change. What action are you all going to take?
In relation to what?
In relation to not being able to get your goods from Trinidad when the cargo ferry goes.
Well, let us say that after the press conference yesterday, we came across an email that was sent by the Minister's office that has asked for us to meet tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The venue was not decided as yet, and so we will await that meeting in terms of what is the way forward. However, I think at this stage we really need to come together and decide what are our options, because I think this is going on for too long. We have been nice, we have been screaming, we have been negotiating, we have done everything. We've been accused of a lot of things. You know, the private sector and all sorts of things have been said about us. And of course, that would be people with their political agendas and people with their personal agendas, not necessarily taking the island of Tobago into account in terms of a holistic approach to this. So we have taken the licks for all of that. But that's part of the game, and so we were prepared for that. But I think now it has reached a stage where after the press conference yesterday, when members of the associations were talking, they were saying that they are disgusted with coming to more press conferences because they feel, you know, we're saying the same thing over and over. They're feeling like recurring decimals, and that we are really getting nowhere. So one of the things that came out is whether we come together to see whether it is we do have, and whether we be the first case to look at legal action in coming together as a body as to the losses that we have incurred over the last number of years, because this is going on and on, whether it is, as Chris said, as a tourism product, we have lost business, or whether it is as the lack of movement, the ability to move, whether via sea or air. So I think we are going to be doing some research on that, because we cannot continue. Bankers will continue to lose confidence in us as a business community.
Will employees be affected?
Well, we can't say clearly. If there is no product coming to Tobago, then there's nothing to move or sell, then there's no need for people. I mean, right about now, corned beef might sound like a good idea, whereas, you know, we need to be serious about this thing. And too many times, Tobago's issues are taken too lightly. Even from a Tobago perspective, have we screamed out as a people? Right. You know, it's the same voices that are out there, but is it that we actually recognize how deep this thing can affect us? You don't have the warrior spirit. The TNT Express is off the route. The TNT Spirit is ailing because she has steering issues, and then somebody sends you notice that they're taking the one functioning boat that's working properly and bringing the goods and services across. Yeah. I mean, what does Tobago do about that?
And this business decline has been over 10 years. It's been a constant decline over 10 years. Yeah. I mean, there's been a 30% drop in business activity in the last 3 years. So
and this would have come across from the Land License Act, which is when we have been fighting. We have been dragging through this, going all the way down. So this is not fair to people who have made investments and have to answer bankers. And of course, bankers are bankers. They're doing their thing, and they're not interested clearly in the bigger picture. That's not their concern.
All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for sharing, and I hope that something is done soon or now to ease the problems that we're having, the challenges we're having in Tobago with the cargo ferry and with the air bridge as well. And that's it for this segment of the program Coming Out of Tobago. I'm your host, Patricia Nicholson. It's back to you in studio, DK.